Men don't love in fragments. Their love is not piecemeal, fleeting, or casual. It is only when something inside them finally settles, when their inner chaos finds coherence, that love emerges fully. Until that moment arrives, their affection remains exploratory, temporary, and often reversible, shifting like sand beneath uncertain footsteps. A man can feel attraction, fascination, or even a form of attachment, yet remain uncommitted at his core. For him, love is less about intensity and more about alignment, a harmony between his inner world and the reality he experiences outside himself. Only when this alignment occurs does love stabilize, becoming something tangible, grounded, and lasting. Without it, even the deepest attraction can feel like a flicker of light in the dark. The first alignment is internal order. A man cannot love deeply while divided within himself. If his instincts pull him one way while his values, principles, or higher aspirations pull another, his emotional energy fractures. This fragmentation manifests as pursuit, withdrawal, and repeated cycles of confusion, not because the woman is inconsistent, but because he is. His desire is unsettled, constantly seeking resolution outside of himself. Love, therefore, cannot begin until this inner division ceases. When his emotional energy is unified, a woman is no longer a tool to soothe anxiety or validate worth. She becomes someone he can approach fully, without betraying his own integrity. His affection transforms from reactive compulsivity to intentional, considered devotion, carrying weight and permanence. The second alignment occurs in the unconscious, in a dimension of the psyche rarely accessible to rational thought. Every man carries within him an inner image of the feminine, a composite of memory, longing, unresolved emotion, and symbolic resonance. This image is neither fully conscious nor logical, yet it is powerful and formative. When a woman resonates with this internal archetype, she activates something ancient and profound within him. Her presence feels familiar, compelling, and significant in a way words cannot capture. This resonance is not about perfection or subservience, but about recognition. She mirrors his counterpart, responding with depth rather than superficial excitement. When this recognition occurs, his emotional investment shifts from temporary stimulation to existential significance, and his pursuit becomes purposeful rather than fleeting. The third alignment is polarity. Love requires tension to thrive. It cannot survive the collapse of difference. Emotional boundaries, when lost, erode desire. Over-availability, constant emotional flooding, or premature merging can sap attraction. A man's desire grows strongest when closeness does not erase individuality, when the woman maintains her own emotional center, her own gravity, without chasing attention or absorbing his moods. This preservation of self generates polarity, a magnetic pull rooted in contrast rather than neediness. When both individuals remain whole while choosing connection, desire strengthens. Love flourishes in the space created by two complete people who can connect without losing themselves, where attraction is fueled by respect, tension, and mutual integrity rather than desperation or codependence. When these three alignments converge, internal order, unconscious resonance, and polarity, something irreversible occurs. Love stops being reactive and becomes committed. The man no longer observes or tests. He is present not out of obligation, but because leaving would feel like abandoning a part of his own being. His love is anchored in his internal alignment, not external validation or fear. Many confuse intensity with love, yet intense attraction often masks internal conflict. Until a man's instincts, values, and emotions harmonize, desire is unstable, fluctuating, and dependent on external conditions. Internal alignment transforms desire from a reactive force into a stable, deliberate choice. giving love the depth, reliability, and permanence that it otherwise cannot achieve. Internal alignment is crucial. A man who has not achieved it often positions a woman as the regulator of his psyche. She becomes a mirror for reassurance, a refuge from emptiness, and a temporary balm for internal chaos. When she responds positively, he feels elevated. When she withdraws, destabilized. His attachment oscillates, rooted in dependency rather than conscious choice. Fear of loss becomes a dominant driver, revealing the absence of inner coherence. A man driven by such fear is oriented not toward the woman herself, but toward what she provides psychologically. He may cling, overinvest, or compromise boundaries, or conversely, withdraw and test her loyalty. But both patterns stem from the same underlying fragmentation, an unstable inner center. Love that arises from fear is conditional, fragile, and inherently temporary. It exists only while the fear that drives it is momentarily alleviated, and once uncertainty or ambiguity returns, the bond weakens almost immediately. In this dynamic, external validation functions in a similar manner. When a man relies on a woman to confirm his worth, masculinity, or desirability, attraction becomes transactional rather than relational. Initially, this validation can feel compelling, even intense, but it is inherently unstable. Over time, the pressure to maintain this validation intensifies, placing an unconscious burden on the woman to sustain his sense of self. Any perceived disapproval or lapse in admiration triggers a psychological alarm, experienced as a threat to identity rather than a relational moment. Emotional volatility ensues, and love cannot deepen when it is tasked with holding up a man's fragile self-concept. Internal alignment transforms this compensatory desire into grounded, reliable attraction. When a man has a clear sense of who he is, what he stands for, and the direction of his life, the quality of his love shifts profoundly. He no longer seeks a woman to complete him or rescue him from emptiness. Desire emerges from surplus rather than lack, flowing naturally rather than desperately. In this state, attraction is steady, attention consistent, and emotional availability reliable. Uncertainty, which once triggered panic or defensive withdrawal, is now tolerated with equanimity. A man who is aligned internally experiences relational fluctuations as natural rather than threatening. Love becomes resilient because it is anchored in self-possession rather than dependence on external reassurance or the fleeting highs of intensity. Another critical component of alignment is the integration of desire and self-restraint. When these forces are divided, a man oscillates between impulsiveness and suppression, often pursuing with intensity only to feel overwhelmed, then withdrawing abruptly. Alternatively, suppressed longing may erupt uncontrollably, creating cycles of confusion and instability. Alignment allows desire to flow harmoniously, without overpowering the self, producing a love that is neither compulsive nor inhibited. Closeness becomes a deliberate choice, rather than a reaction to inner tension. This capacity for intentional engagement forms the foundation of stable love. In this state, idealization disappears, because it is a symptom of projection rather than true affection. Realistic perception, grounded in the present, replaces fantasy, preserving respect and emotional integrity. Internal alignment does not equate to detachment or emotional numbness. It is emotional ownership. A man takes responsibility for his inner states, examining insecurity instead of demanding reassurance, expressing desire without losing himself to it. This emotional sovereignty creates safety in relational presence. A woman feels grounded rather than burdened by the task of stabilizing him. Safety, in this sense, is not passivity, but reliability. The consistent presence of a man whose love is an extension of self, not a reaction to fear. Commitment emerges from congruence rather than urgency. He stays because connection aligns with his inner order, not because he fears being alone. This love is calm, enduring, and mature, sustained by congruence rather than emotional theatrics. Finally, love deepens when a woman resonates with a man's unconscious image of the feminine. This internal image, shaped by early experiences, emotional memory, longing, and unmet needs, precedes conscious choice and rational preference. It is not a superficial ideal, but a symbolic imprint embedded in the psyche, formed through interactions with primary female figures and emotional experiences. Safety, warmth, unpredictability, admiration, or subtle rejection weave together over time into an internal archetype that informs a man's relational lens. A woman may match this imprint intuitively, activating recognition that is immediate yet difficult to articulate. This resonance transforms attraction into psychological significance, rooting love in meaning rather than mere desire, ensuring that connection is deep, lasting, and existential rather than fleeting. He may say he feels drawn to her without fully understanding why, or that being near her carries a depth of meaning he cannot articulate. This resonance does not depend on perfection, compliance, or ease. Often it emerges precisely through complexity, unpredictability, or subtle challenge rather than convenience. The unconscious does not respond to surface-level courtesy, charm, or performance. It responds to symbolic familiarity embedded deep within the psyche. A woman may unsettle him, provoke unexpected emotions, or challenge his assumptions, yet remain profoundly compelling. Her presence activates something archetypal, something ancient and formative, bridging the personal with the symbolic. Attraction transforms from superficial desire to deeper internal involvement, pulling him toward exploration of both her reality and his own inner world. Many relationships falter because they operate only at the level of conscious preference. Preferences are negotiable, flexible, and subject to rational assessment. Kindness, intelligence, beauty, compatibility. A woman may meet these expectations flawlessly, yet fail to trigger the unconscious image, leaving attachment limited. He may respect her, enjoy her company, or commit out of logic, habit, or convenience, yet something essential remains absent. Over time, this absence manifests as subtle restlessness, distraction, or inexplicable dissatisfaction, even in seemingly ideal circumstances. Resonance with the unconscious image transforms love from situational satisfaction to symbolic, enduring significance. She is no longer interchangeable. The connection penetrates layers of the psyche that cannot be replaced, giving the relationship a sense of inevitability and predestination that transcends external circumstances. This resonance is often mistaken for projection, but the distinction is critical. Projection occurs when a man attributes qualities to a woman that are not actually present, creating inevitable disillusionment when reality fails to align. True resonance, however, occurs when authentic qualities in the woman align with symbolic patterns already embedded in the psyche. In this state, love deepens as reality continues to mirror the inner archetype, allowing intimacy to grow rather than collapse. The woman does not manufacture this effect through effort, strategy, or conscious manipulation. It emerges naturally from her authenticity. Subtle qualities, self-possession, emotional presence, firmness, mystery, warmth, and containment carry far more psychic weight than deliberate attempts to please, drawing him into connection without triggering neediness or anxiety. When a woman is grounded in her own center, she carries an emotional gravity that the psyche instinctively recognizes. This recognition is not conscious admiration, but a felt sense of profound significance and meaning. When resonance occurs, a man's behavior subtly but noticeably shifts. His curiosity deepens rather than wanes. He seeks understanding instead of control. His attention becomes steady, his presence reliable, and his investment unfolds gradually rather than peaking prematurely. This is because the bond is fueled not by novelty, excitement, or validation, but by enduring meaning. Meaning does not burn out, it unfolds, creating a relationship that becomes a space for internal exploration and psychological depth, rather than mere gratification or fleeting pleasure. Resonance with the unconscious image also invites growth, as this image contains unresolved emotional material. The woman may evoke vulnerability, responsibility, or depth that the man has long avoided. This challenge does not weaken love, it strengthens it when he is willing to engage fully. Love that touches the unconscious is inherently transformative. It demands integration rather than consumption. The man is not merely receiving, he is being shaped by the relationship. Crucially, this resonance cannot survive dependency or fusion. If the woman abandons her center to maintain connection, polarity collapses and the symbolic charge fades. The unconscious responds to the tension between two distinct, whole centers, not to convergence, which preserves the magnetic pull and ensures love retains its depth and psychological richness. This approach preserves the depth of love over time. When a man loves at this level, affection remains alive because it is continually rediscovered rather than fully possessed. Separation takes on a different quality. The possibility of loss is experienced not as mere loneliness, but as the absence of a meaningful internal dialogue, an interruption in the connection between his inner world and hers. He is not driven by fear of solitude. He understands what would be missing. This awareness anchors commitment naturally. He stays not out of dependence, coercion, or habit, but because the relationship carries genuine psychological weight. It matters in a way that transcends convenience, routine, or superficial desire, creating a love grounded in meaning rather than need. The love that arises from unconscious resonance carries a quiet seriousness. It is not performative, dramatic, or loud. Instead, it feels like gravity, an invisible force that guides choices and priorities. The man may not speak of it often, yet it governs his behavior. He protects this bond, not from insecurity but from recognition. He senses, even vaguely, that something rare has occurred. The woman has not merely entered his life, she has entered his inner world. Lasting love emerges when emotional polarity is preserved, rather than dissolved by overdependence, overexposure, or fusion. Polarity is not distance, coldness, or manipulation. It is a psychological condition in which two individuals remain distinct centers of gravity while choosing connection. When polarity exists, attraction thrives because there is movement between two separate forces, not collapse into sameness. Love is sustained not by constant closeness, but by dynamic tension, a push and pull that preserves vitality. Without this tension, desire weakens, not due to fading affection, but because the psychological conditions that generate attraction have eroded. Emotional polarity begins with self-containment. A man remains engaged when a woman fully inhabits her own emotions rather than offloading them compulsively. When every thought or feeling is immediately externalized, explained, or shared for reassurance, the relational field becomes saturated. Space for curiosity, anticipation, and imagination disappears. Overexposure does not create intimacy. It eliminates the mystery that allows the unconscious to remain engaged. Dependency is the most common way polarity collapses. Emotional dependency occurs when one partner unconsciously assigns responsibility for regulation, meaning, or stability to the other. When a woman relies on a man to soothe every insecurity or anchor her worth, he is pulled into a caretaker role. Desire cannot thrive where obligation replaces choice. What begins as openness can gradually become emotional flooding, and closeness may transform into fusion. Initially, the man may feel important, even needed, but over time this responsibility becomes a burden. His desire weakens not because he stops caring, but because the woman ceases to exist as a distinct, self-sustaining presence. Polarity dissolves when the couple becomes the emotional center for both simultaneously. Overexposure operates similarly, though it is often mistaken for honesty. Radical transparency without discernment erodes attraction. Mystery is not secrecy. It is the natural consequence of a person with an inner life that is not immediately revealed. When every thought, feeling, and doubt is broadcast in real time, the unconscious disconnects. There is nothing left to discover. Desire feeds on the process of discovery, not on continuous revelation. Emotional polarity also depends on rhythm, the alternation between closeness and space, engagement and withdrawal, expression and silence. Constant proximity erodes this rhythm, leaving the man feeling as if there is nothing to approach. Polarity allows attraction to persist because he experiences her presence as magnetic, not imposed. A woman who preserves polarity does not hold back artificially. She remains anchored in her own center, processing emotions internally before sharing them. This containment creates density rather than distance. Her words carry weight. Her expressions feel intentional rather than reactive, and her presence commands attention without demanding it. The man experiences her as someone to move toward, not someone forced upon him. Polarity also protects desire from erosion by predictability. While predictability is vital for trust, constant emotional predictability kills vitality. The unconscious thrives on subtle uncertainty. She remains a living subject, not a fully known object. Even conflict, when polarity is preserved, intensifies attraction. As both individuals interact as whole, centered selves, maintaining respect inseparable from desire. When respect fades, attraction inevitably diminishes. A critical aspect of polarity is emotional sovereignty, the capacity to remain internally grounded while experiencing the full range of emotions without outsourcing regulation to the relationship. Loneliness, desire, disappointment, longing, uncertainty, and insecurity are inevitable in any intimate bond. Emotional sovereignty does not deny or suppress these states. It allows them to be felt, processed, and internally integrated before being expressed. This internal processing preserves psychological balance. A woman who exercises sovereignty does not rush to the man for reassurance or stabilization at the first sign of discomfort. Her emotional life retains depth rather than spilling outward in ways that burden the connection, creating space for curiosity, desire, and sustained attraction. Emotional sovereignty is often misunderstood as detachment, but it is the opposite. A woman who is emotionally sovereign remains fully available, receptive, and warm, yet does not collapse internally when the connection fluctuates. Her identity, mood, and sense of worth are not contingent on the man's immediate reactions because she does not constantly seek confirmation. Her presence feels spacious rather than demanding. The man experiences her as a grounded, self-contained individual, not as someone who requires management. When a woman can sit with longing without panic, desire without urgency, and disappointment without blame, she preserves polarity on a psychological level. Two centers of gravity remain intact, allowing desire to flourish naturally. Emotional dependency erodes polarity. When a woman unconsciously assigns the man responsibility for regulating her internal world, the relational dynamic shifts. The man is no longer drawn toward her as a separate, autonomous presence. He is pulled into a caretaker role. Desire cannot thrive under obligation. Even initially, loving and committed men begin to feel pressure when connection becomes a source of emotional regulation rather than invitation. Desire thrives on freedom, not compulsion. Emotional sovereignty keeps choice visible. A man is drawn to a woman who chooses him freely, not out of fear, loneliness, or need. Choice carries dignity, signaling that the bond is additive, not compensatory, and deepens attraction over time. Sovereignty also shapes conflict and vulnerability. A woman grounded in herself can articulate feelings without transforming them into demands. She can express disappointment without insisting on immediate repair, and desire without demanding instant fulfillment. This preserves respect and maintains polarity. The man remains engaged because he does not feel cornered or responsible for fixing her internal state. He can respond from choice rather than defensiveness. Sovereignty creates consistency, presenting her as emotionally reliable rather than volatile. Reactions remain proportional, presence steady, and absence non-punitive. This steadiness does not reduce passion, it grounds it. Passion rooted in sovereignty endures because it arises from mutual desire between two whole individuals rather than anxiety or fear. Emotional sovereignty preserves the balance between intimacy and independence. It allows the relationship to deepen without collapsing individuality. The woman remains emotionally open, yet not dependent. The man remains committed without feeling consumed. Polarity prevents erotic energy from collapsing into emotional management. Relationships dominated by reassurance, processing, and regulation drain eroticism. True eroticism requires vitality, confidence, and emotional depth that is lived rather than constantly explained. A woman who inhabits her inner life fully carries energy that words cannot replicate. The man responds instinctively, experiencing connection as lived presence rather than emotional labor. Without polarity, desire dulls, attention drifts, and the relationship feels heavy. Polarity preserves attraction, vitality, and the generative force of love. This approach to love is not limited to romantic relationships. It applies to any profound human bond in which deep engagement, mutual recognition, and psychological integrity are present. The principles of internal alignment, resonance, and polarity create conditions where desire, trust, respect, and emotional investment can flourish simultaneously. When these elements are absent, relationships may survive, but they rarely reach transformative depth. Love becomes reactive, fragile, or transactional, often dependent on validation, reassurance, or avoidance of discomfort. In contrast, love cultivated through psychological coherence and mutual sovereignty is self-sustaining, generative, and capable of enduring the inevitable challenges, fluctuations, and complexities of human life. At the unconscious level, love gains depth when a woman resonates with the symbolic image of the feminine embedded within him over a lifetime. This resonance is subtle, archetypal, and not contingent on performance or superficial traits. She awakens in him a recognition that is ancient, psychological, and deeply compelling. When this connection occurs, attraction moves beyond preference and convenience. It becomes a psychological imperative, a meeting of layers of the mind and heart that cannot be easily replicated or replaced. Love becomes transformative because it shapes him as much as it engages him, asking for integration, reflection, and emotional growth rather than mere gratification. Finally, love deepens when the woman resonates with the symbolic image in the man's unconscious, not through performance but through inhabiting her emotional gravity authentically. Love endures only when polarity is preserved, when two complete, self-contained, sovereign individuals choose connection without losing themselves. When internal alignment, unconscious resonance, and polarity converge, love ceases to be reactive or fragile. It becomes grounded, meaningful, and resilient. The man stays, not because he fears leaving or lacks autonomy, but because the relationship reflects his psychological coherence. activates his deepest internal layers and continually invites engagement, creating a bond that is alive, sustainable, and deeply transformative.